Hey there, YouTube buddies! Bob from Oregon's Constant Gardener. Welcome to the OCGFAM show. 2 shows in 1 day. It's exciting. We're killing it. I'm back. I'm sorry I was gone so long, but I'm back in the swing of it. Feeling a lot better. The video earlier today, a little rough, talking a little fast, a little nervous. Feeling better now. This video is about cultured biologics. Now, Eric Miranda had a question on the previous video just a little bit ago. Today he asked, does pH matter, on the video for trigger, about the trigger foliar spraying. So I called up Tim McCormick, one of the owners of Cultured Biologix, and I said, hey Tim, what's the deal? Does pH matter? He said, well, yes it does. So it's not a matter of absorption with the pH of a foliar spray, but if it gets too high or too low on the pH, you can burn your plant. So that's the issue. So he said that the trigger shouldn't affect the pH too much of your water. So if you got water that's within that range, you probably don't have to adjust the pH unless you got some really high or really low pH water, like maybe you got a well or something like that. But the rule of thumb, under 6 pH, over 9 pH, no bueno, not good. So you want to stay in that range of 6 to 9 for your pH spray. So that is that. And then what I wanted to say, the video we're going to show right now, he did a video a while back when he was just kind of getting started with this whole thing about the trigger, but Tim was here like a couple weeks ago and did a much more in-depth video where we did some more talking about it. It's like a 30-minute long video, but it's good stuff. So watch that video right now, and then I'll talk to you after. Hey there, back with Tim McCormick from Cultured Biologix. Now Tim, we've been talking about the Dr. Root, the Easy Tea Veg, and the Easy Tea Bloom, and these you designed specifically for life stages of the plant early on. Although you can use this in some different stages too for like repotting and that sort of thing. Right. But veg and then the bloom. But you got the trigger, doesn't feel like it fits so much into that timeline kind of thing, more of a multi-purpose thing. So what I'm curious about is how do you use the trigger? What's it for? How's it work?
Sure. So it's our just real simple go juice. It is what it allows plant to have a whole bunch of energy to just really put it in to wherever it needs to go. If you're in veg and you use it, it's going to be more of a vegetative booster, so it's going to increase lateral branching, it's going to increase the width of the leaves, it's going to increase the amount of canopy you have. And you're also going to see an increase in growth rates as well. And so it's not really like for the specific plant stage, because we're going to use it in bloom also, right?
So it stimulates the growth that you're trying to get at that time.
Right. So so what we like to call what we called it triggers because it's exactly that. It triggers the plant to grow wherever you put it. Okay. In bloom, what we like to really use with it is in the transition phase into the early flower, and we see that knocks off a couple days. Some people several days off their transition into flower, and they can get bud sets faster.
Okay.
And so we like to use it not in necessarily one stage, like you said, like we use the Dr. Root for rooting and the veg for veg and the bloom for blooming. We use this throughout the veg and the early bloom stage to kind of get the growth rates we want from an organic garden with an organic product.
So a stimulant, but also makes it go into like, so you switch your lights over, and then it triggers to do what you want it to do. Okay,
exactly. And we just load the plant with amino acids and calcium. Both of those things are precursors to new cells. Okay. So the plant can't make new cells and keep growing unless it has the precursors. The precursors are the amino acids and the calcium. Okay. And that's why you get such great growth rates, is because you're priming the plant with so many amino acids that the plant then takes, and the calcium it takes and builds into new cells.
It's gassed up, ready to go.
It's gassed up, ready to go. So,
okay.
You know, as far as application goes,
yeah, that's the other thing I want to know. So, what am I doing this, and not just how does this work, but how does it work in conjunction with the other ones?
Right. It can be used as a tea additive. You can do that. You can use it with your feeds. You can also use it by yourself, by itself. But we recommend drenching it and or foliar spraying it. Okay. So we like to drench young plants because it really helps trigger root growth. And then we like to foliar spray late veg into early flower about 2 to 3 times a week. You can drench all the way through late veg into early flower as well. Okay. Pig farmer loves this stuff, and he drenches it. He doesn't spray it at all. So he does once a week drench, and you get the relatively the same effect as you would if you foliar sprayed it.
So am I doing that in conjunction with my tea, or is it a separate thing?
So I like to use it in conjunction with my teas. Unless I need if my plant's having trouble to uptake the elements in the soil, I'll use it as a drench in my feeds.
Okay.
But if I'm just, I'm just trying to get the go juice on the plant, I put it in my teas. So my once a week tea days, I'll just add the trigger to my tea days.
Okay. How late would you go before I stop foliar feeding?
I wouldn't go past week 3 or 4, depending on some varieties.
Okay.
Like the later varieties and sativas, you can usually, go
a little
bit later. Okay. The plants that have a later set, you can go a little later on it.
Would I ever stop drenching?
Yes, you don't want to drench past like week 3.
Okay.
Week 3 is like your cutoff. Well, after that, there's no need. You're wasting your money because you already primed the plant with so much energy that it's ready to go after the first 2 weeks.
It's got to start expending that energy. I get to the end of my cycle, I want to start weaning it off that it's running out of gas toward the end where it just limps across the finish line.
Right.
Okay.
And so, the plant's going to either do 2 things. And throughout this process of living, it's either going to take amino acids, build them into proteins, and then the plant takes those amino acids that got built into proteins and breaks those proteins down for energy. Okay. We call that anabolism.
Okay.
Right? The other process, if the plant doesn't have enough amino acids and the plant doesn't have enough proteins to break down, it breaks its own proteins down as a source of energy, and that's why you get your bottom leaves to die off and your bottom leaves to really curl under or cause any type of necrotic
It's taking care of the kids.
It's having to sacrifice itself in order to get the energy. When you give it excess amino acids, it can build them into protein and not have cannibalism. Cannibalism is the plant consuming itself to get energy. That's what it has to do in order to stay alive.
Yeah,
But we don't want cannibalism. Right. We want anabolism. And we want the proteins to be built super fast, and that's why the trigger is really good at giving, is like a go juice, because you're giving him all the amino acids it needs to build into proteins for anabolism to occur. And that is what the plant has more than enough. When the plant has more than enough amino acids, skyrocket. That's why the plant starts praying really fast. That's why they start growing really fast, and it's because we're priming them with literal energy for the plant.
Okay, so this is not just you see it like you put it on, you're like, oh, it's praying. It's building bricks and down in there so that it can have a stronger foundation to grow.
Exactly. Cells like the cells in a plant are composed of 2 things: amino acids such proteins, calcium. So if we want faster growth, we need to give
those 2 things. So
amino acids and calcium. So that's why it's triggered, because we're triggering new growth with amino acids and calcium.
Okay.
And if you foliar spray it on the new growing tips, it's going to deposit right into the growing tips, and the plant's going to use that as material to grow.
Okay.
If you drench it, it's going to act as a booster shot. Calcium and amino acids love to transport. They're transport molecules. So when it goes into your soil or it goes into your feeds, like your nectar feed, if you have a feed once a week, you put the trigger in.
Right. Okay.
It's going to take all those elements, all the nutritional products inside the nectar, and drive it into the plant.
Okay.
It's a transport molecule. Calcium transports just about every other element into the plant, and amino acids can bond to just about every element in the plant. The thing about amino acids is usually you have a stomata on the roots, a little pore on the roots. Like you have pores on your skin, and you have pores on the leaves. And they have regulators, the plant does, to open them and to close them, and to open them and to close them, and allow some in, block it off, allow some more in, block it off, allow more in. So it's a regulatory process. We can bypass that regulatory process by bonding it with amino acids. The plant goes, oh, I know what those are. Those are a part of me. I don't need to regulate them. They should just come on in. So now that we have calcium attached to the amino acids and other elements attached to the calcium that's attached to the amino acids, it's being driven into the plant because the plant recognizes it at that point. The plant doesn't have to fight to get it. It goes right through the roots. It goes right into the plant and gets translocated up.
Okay. So more the better? To a point, more the better, no point? I mean, pushing as hard as I can, or is it something where a certain amount is just going to be fine?
More is never really better. Like Bloom Chaos.
Yeah.
More Bloom Chaos doesn't mean you get better results.
Yeah, you find a level where you can.
Yeah,
you can push the plant as hard as it can without killing it.
What we find is that overkill is going over a tablespoon. It's not that it's going to do something bad.
Yeah.
It's just, 1, wasting your money, and 2, it's not going to be benefiting the plant as much if you just kept it at half a tablespoon or 1 tablespoon per gallon of water.
And I've got it's in the soil, just hanging out, building up, or
it's just going to transport. It's not going to linger in the soil for very long. It's going to go right into the plant.
I got you.
And so the important thing is making sure that if you do put it on your roots, make sure you get it throughout the veg, get that nice root growth going on.
Okay.
And if you do use it in late veg, early flower, and you want to foliar spray it at least 2 times a week, if not 3 times a week.
Okay.
Some people even go to the length of foliar spraying it every day because they like the effects of it.
Okay.
So it's about application frequency, less than using so much of it.
Okay. So if let's say I was wanting to use it as much as I can, I'm going for it. How would I fit that in? With I also want to do some Bloom Chaos, and then would I want to do maybe some Kelpie stuff and those kinds of things, or maybe some full on that kind of thing? How would all that fit together if I'm just like going for it?
Trying to gun it?
Yeah.
So I like to rotate sprays.
Yeah.
I don't like to use the same spray over and over and over again.
Right.
So what I will do is I will have a trigger day that either has Kraken in it or it has a Poseidon enzyme.
Okay.
It has your wetting agent in it. It has your Photo Plus. Have a NutriDip spray.
Okay.
With trigger.
Yeah.
Then the next day, after you put all the trigger and all the other products with the calcium in it, we use Bloom Chaos. That's because we want to put all the calcium amino acids.
It needs to work with it in the leaf instead of trying to bring that up through the
roots and have the capillary action go all the way in, right? When we spray the plant with this stuff, there's no waiting. Okay. It goes into the plant and saturates the cells of the plant. And what actually trigger does is, if you can look microscopic, we had microscopic lenses on our eyes, and you can see it. As soon as you spray the trigger, it goes into the leaf tissue, goes in between the cells. And what that does is it causes a higher pressure gradient around the cells because you're full of nutrition now. It's full of the trigger, the juice of the plant is, and it shoves it into the cells by osmotic pressure. If you have a low pressure surrounded by high pressure, the high pressure is going to get injected into the low pressure area. Then it goes from each cell to cell to cell. So you literally are injecting the calcium and amino acids into the leaves where it needs to be.
Okay.
Then the next day, you're spraying Bloom Chaos, which is telling the plant to use all the amino acids and calcium you just deposited into the cells, use it all right then and there.
Okay.
And then the third day, so that's day 1 is your trigger sprays.
Right.
Day 2 is your Bloom Chaos sprays. And day 3, that's your IPM spray.
Okay.
That's when I incorporate the light oils. That's when I incorporate the enzymes. That's when I incorporate the biological insecticides.
Okay.
And that is mainly so we can make sure that we have no bugs.
Right. Okay.
2, the BK isn't going to hurt the plant because you're already priming the plant with calcium with trigger.
Okay.
And then at day 4, I use the trigger spray again.
Okay.
Day 5, I use Bloom Chaos. Day 6, I use IPM. And day 7, I use trigger. And it's just that
roll it over
every day. Is it three different spray cycle.
Okay.
And you go day 1, day 2, day 3. Repeat.
What evidence would I see that I was pushing too hard?
You can get a green up effect that's more than green. It'll turn almost like a bluish hue.
Something like you see when you're too close to your lights and it's pushing everything up, and then you see that purpling kind of thing. Is that what you're talking about?
Purpling. It's just a really, really, really dark green, almost almost too dark.
It's creepy.
And it's like no plants.
It doesn't feel quite right.
Back off a little bit. Okay. That's using too much.
That's your first sign that you're going too much. Okay.
But your plants are supposed to stay emerald green with it. They're going to be green till about week 4, 5, or 6 when the plant wants to start fading. Okay. But they should have a beautiful green color. If you get the bluish hint, you're using too much.
Okay. And you would not stop, but you would back off.
Right, you'd back off.
And not back off on days, but on concentration.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You back off on the concentration. Now, what you are going to see if you don't use enough before you don't use enough calcium before you put Bloom Chaos on.
Okay.
We see the eagle claw. Right, so we see the
clawing up.
Nope, down.
Clawing down.
They're clawing down.
They're getting squeezed from the bottom of the root. Like it's almost like it's closed. So that it's closing up on itself.
It's trying to close up on itself, and the reason why that is because of Bloom Chaos is facilitating calcium.
Right.
When there's not enough calcium there, say you missed a trigger spray, and you're like, I'm just gonna do Bloom Chaos.
I gotta get my chaos.
Right. And
I gotta catch up.
I gotta get my chaos spray in. You can see the claw down. That's because the plant doesn't have the amount of calcium it needs. And instead, it's pulling up all the nitrogen and potassium and causing a nitrogen and potassium toxicity. We usually only see that claw from a calcium deficiency / nitrogen toxicity because the bloom chaos is facilitating the nitrogen when there's no more calcium available.
What's the mechanical function there? Is it growing at different rates or is it actually contracting on itself?
Think about it. If the plant can't produce new cells, yet we're trying to tell the plant to facilitate the calcium to produce new cells. Then what it actually ends up happening is that you don't have the cells to keep the leaf flat. It's actually causing a cellular deficiency inside the plant, a protein deficiency inside the plant, and it's causing the cells to not be able to flatten out and extend out, causing it to claw.
I got
And then you start to see the die-off on the leaf.
This is an unhealthy plant.
And that's called cannibalism.
The
plant starts consuming itself, and that's why you start to see the claw and the twisting and the necrotic growth. You know what I mean? So a couple ways to avoid that is one, spray trigger before you spray bloom chaos. Second, always keep a 6-to-1 Herc to bloom chaos ratio. That stuff.
On your feed day, if you're using a teaspoon of this, you're using 6 teaspoons of this.
Correct.
Okay.
And so keep that ratio, and before you actually start spraying the bloom chaos, make sure that make sure you have a couple feeds of the Herculean harvest at that ratio.
So my root feed, my drench, I'm doing that a couple times. Right. I'm at the 6, or if it's 6-to-1.
Right.
But I want to make sure I got some of that up in the plant because I'm doing this is giving me some of that in the leaf. But I still need this for my stem growth and for the whole thing going. I got to have a base of calcium to use this.
And remember, the way calcium works and the way all these nutritional products work, there's a source and a sink. The source is the root system. The source of all the main driver of calcium is in the soil, right? So the plant is trying to take it from the source and move it up through the plant to deposit it in the little pockets that we call sinks.
Tell me what sink means.
Sink is just a pocket, an area that is void of the elements.
It is like the sink in my home. Is that what?
It's exactly.
Or like a heat sink. It is a place to store something till I need it or to dissipate it if I don't need it.
Right. It's just like, exactly.
It's a warehouse.
It's like you can use a kitchen sink analogy, right?
Okay, yeah.
Where it's just like the catch-all. It's where it gets collected. Where
if there's an earthquake, I fill my bathtub up with water so that I got some water. I know I'm okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the container at which the source is trying to get into.
Okay.
So calcium, all these elements are trying to get somewhere, right?
Right.
The place that they end up, the destination, we call that a sink.
So it gets there and then slowly gets into the cells.
Utilized and metabolized by the plant. It gets stored first in the sinks and then metabolized.
I understand.
So we want it. So the plant always needs to be able to have a source of calcium to constantly deposit in the sink. We can kind of bypass the necessity of of only using the source. By foliar spraying the trigger because we can deposit in the sinks real quick. But the bloom chaos is going to take it out of the sinks real quick.
This is me pushing hard. I still got to have this. I'm still going to have
This is your foundation. I don't care if you're using the 4-part. I don't care if you're using the simple 6. I don't care if you're using the Roman regiment. This is your foundation to plant health. That's your foundation to yield. And that's your foundation to the bloom chaos.
And that's why I've got a quart of everything here and I got a gallon of this because this is the main this is the thing you're going to use the most of.
Right. This is your meat and potatoes.
Okay.
That's your core of it. That's your foundation. So we need to have a source that's full of calcium that can be available and transported.
Right.
But we also need to be helping out the sinks so the sinks aren't just relying on the source. We can kind of help out that process by just putting available calcium on the leaves and letting it go through the leaf and just depositing the sinks. Mind you, the bloom chaos is going to take it right from the sinks after you spray the bloom chaos, so it's going to need to have a source to put it right back in till the next time you can spray trigger to refill the sinks.
Gotcha.
So it's important to have not only a source to sink approach, so a Herculean harvest at a 6-to-1, but it's also important before you're spraying the calcium to kind of aid in the sinks that need the calcium, because bloom chaos is going to use that.
Use it up.
And you want to replenish it as fast as you can.
Okay. And so I guess also what I might say too, what I have a question about, so I'm using tons of this, but I'm probably using some SLF and my T's and these sorts of things to keep this available in the soil so that when I'm pushing hard with my bloom chaos and it's pulling it up, that I still have mobile, ready to go calcium down in the soil at all times. That's kind of the T idea to some extent?
Exactly. Keep calcium mobile. Because calcium is highly reactive. At the pH of 6 to 7, for example, calcium wants to bond to phosphorus. Plants can't take it up at that point. It has to be available like the Herc does. So what breaks apart the calcium and phosphorus? Phosphorus solubilizing microbes.
So I put this in my soil, and if I put too much in there, it's going to bond in my soil. I'm not going to be able to have enough of it, and I'm keeping it mobile with the T's and with the SLF and with things like that.
And even if you're not putting too much, even at the recommended rates, you're still going to have a lot of it being taken up into the plant, but you're going to have some react and some that are going to cause to precipitate and bond to the soils.
So no matter, because in my mind I'm always thinking I put too much, but too much better than too little. But even when I'm at whatever amount I'm at, even when I'm putting a tablespoon or just not that much in, it's still some of it is reacting in the soil, and I'm going to lose that. Even if the plant wants it and would have taken it in, it can't take it in fast enough. I have to keep it mobile in the soil using T's and that sort of microbial type products.
And to give you an example, and using some arbitrary number, say the plant takes up 80% of the Herc.
Right.
Well, there's still 20% left over that's going to be bonded and reactive with the soil, especially if you have a bad pH.
Sure.
So the microbes and SLF, the enzymes, what they do is they constantly break down the leftovers. Okay. It's like that's their food source essentially. He's like the nectar is feeding the plant. Do not get me wrong, but nectar is also feeding the soil.
Yeah.
You know,
which is a good thing.
It's a good thing because these microbes live in the soil, and you need to feed the microbes, and in turn, the microbes feed your plants.
But all of that I'm doing there, working with in the soil with the microbes and stuff, is also stuff that can at some point be available to the plant through the use of microbial enhancements.
Right. So this is digested. It's 100% bioavailable, pretty much as in bottle. Right. And then once it reacts with the soil, it gets either taken up by the plant or bonds to the soil itself.
Okay.
The microbes come through on your T day, so your feed. Then your T day, the microbes break it down. The enzymes from SLF break it down and make the Herc can make all these other products you're using available to the plant again. So the T day is technically like the bacteria being able to feed your plant on that day.
I got
you. The feeds are like you being able to feed your plant that day.
Okay, cool. Now, one last question. Sure. So obviously I can go too late with this. I don't want to go much past early flower. Right. Can I go too early with this when I still got a seed where it hasn't popped up yet, or when I've only got a couple of sets of leaves?
Yeah, you can use it too early. Make sure you have make sure if you do use it at rooted cutting, right? You transplant the rooted cutting into like a 4-inch or a 1-gallon pot.
Okay.
Give it a couple, give it a Dr. Root, then the next watering, give it a Dr. Root, and then after that, then hit it with trigger. But if you're transplanting a root ball that's already established into a pot, like a 1-gallon plant or a 4-inch pot, you transplant with the Dr. Root, and then the next watering, I like to drench the trigger.
Okay.
So too young is not having a root system, essentially.
So I've got one of those cuttings, and it's like it's got the roots all trailing down, and I'm like, oh, this is a solid clone.
Right.
But it's not ready until I get it in some soil and get it to like kind of stretch out and feel its way around a little bit.
Because you want to have the surface area of the roots being spread out, so the trigger can just go right into the roots. And you can just go right into the plant. But if you only have like 4 roots that are kind of coming out of a cube, and you put it in. You're not going to hurt the plant, but you're not going to get much benefit out of the trigger. You're getting more benefit out of the Dr. Root on fresh, new transplants.
I'm not going to hurt anything, though. Okay, so because I guess my fear is someone that's a novice to it is that I'll go too early and I'll mess something up.
The thing is when you have different forms of nitrogen that are nitrate-based or ammonia-based, if you use it on a tender plant, you're going to fry that plant. You are going to nuke it.
So everything we're talking about here through all these videos is using a more natural type thing, not using a salt-based nutrient.
Exactly, and the fact that the trigger you see has 8% nitrogen in it is there's no nitrate, there's no ammonia. It's all amino acids, it's all protein-based from organic non-GMO soybeans. So you're not gonna. It's impossible to burn with trigger.
I gotcha.
It's impossible to really cause toxicity with trigger. Plants can't just have too many proteins. If that plant has the proteins, it's going to use it to grow at the highest metabolic rate it can use it at.
And whatever's left over on top of that is just not going to get used. It's not going to crush the plant.
Right. And what doesn't get utilized is going to be either microbial food in the soil. It's going to be some type of residual food for the plant or whatnot. But the trigger really won't linger inside the soil very long. So you don't have to worry about buildup. You don't have to worry about ppms going nuts. You don't have to worry about burning. You don't have to worry about overstimulating, like drinking a pot of coffee in one gulp. So that's why everything is in 1, moderation, and 2, use it at the application rates that we recommend.
Okay. If I did go from a seed, I popped the seed, I put it in my soil, I got Hey, a couple little leaves coming up. I got a couple sets, something. Is there? Can I go too early with that?
Yeah. So when you pop seeds, clones are different than seeds.
Sure.
So in the context of seeds, you want to wait till 5 or 6 tiers of leaves.
Okay.
To do the trigger.
Okay.
I'd use the Dr. Root with a number 4 every watering up to 5 or 6 tiers of leaves with my seedlings. Then I give it a drench of trigger. Then that's when I start feeding.
Okay, so I've got my seed. I paper towel thing situation.
Yep.
I get it in the soil. I don't see anything. Finally, I see a little bit of green there.
Yep.
So what would you be using other than just straight water from day one? So I put my seed in the soil and I water. What would you water with?
I'm known to use Dr. Root every watering till the seedling can be fed.
And would you use anything? You would use no feeding, nothing else like that. Would you use?
I'll use like a SLF, just a good enzyme to keep the roots nice and healthy and clean.
Okay.
But
you wouldn't be using that to get for a food intake. You'd be using that to clean up any kind of necrosis or anything like that.
Yeah, or any type of like bad pathogens, or keep the soil moving and start that process for the soil. The biggest thing is you want to make sure that the seedling doesn't have any food for the first 2 or 3 weeks of its life.
Sure.
Like the seed, the thing about a seed is nature's amazing.
Yeah.
And nature has perfected the system
all in there.
to the fucking T. And the seeds themselves have enough food in it for 2 weeks. So the seeds have enough food to give the baby food for the plant.
Do you soak them in Zeus juice or full on or anything like that before you go?
Yeah.
Or would you...
So my seed germination technique is I make a Dr. Root solution.
Okay.
So I make like a quart, and I take a quarter of a teaspoon, put it in the water, mix it up, let it sit for like 5 minutes to make sure everything's all mixed up. Then I pour that in a shot glass. Then I take a teaspoon. I pour Zeus juice in a teaspoon and put it in a shot glass. Mix that up. Then I soak my seeds in that.
Okay.
The Zeus juice, Dr. Root seed germination technique.
What do you feel is the mode of action that makes the Fulvix or whatever work on that thing? People say it's softening it up.
Yep.
Is that... You said the seed's perfect. How are we helping the seed by using this thing to do that?
So the process is just to kind of break down the physiology of what happens when water touches a seed and germinates, right? Water touches a seed. The seed releases gibberellins. Then the seed produces an enzyme called amylase. AMYLASE. The amylase then takes the starches that are stored inside the seed and converts it to glucose.
Okay.
Glucose is then used as a very first food source for the seed to go boom, pop, taproot starts.
Okay.
So that's a process.
Yeah.
Now the question is, how do we aid in that process to make sure that process, that systematic process inside the seed, how do we make sure it works?
Okay.
So there are a couple different parts of the seed. You have the seed coating. You have the actual embryo of the seed, where all the magic happens. So if the magic happens inside the embryo, and the outer casing isn't softened or decomposed or broke down, it's never going to be able to get through. It's never going to be able to break through the coating. So what the humic acids do inside the Zeus juice is it breaks down the seed coating. Okay.
So and this would happen in nature because in a paper towel, obviously, I don't have the humus, that stuff that I would have out in nature in my soil naturally.
The earth has tons of humics that naturally will break apart the seed coating.
Okay.
I mean, if it just was it growing out in the wild and it fell into the ground and that's how it germinated.
That's how it goes. Because I mean, I have to go in all this stuff to try to make this thing go. In nature, it fell on the ground and it grew from there.
And it was because of all that stuff. On the ground.
Yeah.
The flowers rotted.
Yeah.
And then it germinated from the rotted flowers.
Yeah.
So it's like it has a whole bunch of, as plant matter breaks down, it turns into a natural humic.
This is us more mimicking the natural process than trying to...
biomimicry. And so there's a couple other different things that I incorporate into the Dr. Root that goes along with the Zeus juice.
Okay.
The first is I use aloe vera powder inside the Dr. Root. And the aloe helps soften the shell.
Sure.
But the aloe also provides a complex of compounds that wakes the seed up.
Okay.
Right? The other part is that amylase is the first enzyme that's released inside the seed. So if we give bacteria that naturally release that enzyme around the seed, it can help facilitate the process of getting that to wake up and getting that facilitation of starch and the glucose.
Okay.
So then the next part is that as soon as the taproot breaks the shell, we want to make sure nothing's going to get on there that can hurt the seedling. Because damping off is a disease and a very real disease. And you can pop 10 seeds, and if you have some damping off that jumps on the root system or jumps on the stem, your seedlings are going to go like that. And so we can prevent damping off or reduce damping off just by making sure the taproot has mycorrhizae attached as soon as it breaks through the shell. So that's why the Dr. Root has mycorrhizae spores in there. So as soon as the taproot can break through, the mycorrhizae in the Dr. Root, that the humics, everything just kind of broke down and kind of released the seed. And as soon as the seed starts and the taproot pops, the mycorrhizae is jumping on the roots, protecting it.
This is why, even though we're using this that has mycorrhiza, we're still using a mycorrhiza when we repot, is that what you've got in here is a starter mycorrhiza to get it going, just to get everything process going, so that this stuff can take hold better, more better.
Right.
And also so you can do this earlier in the process than you might do if you were just using just a mycorrhiza.
Right. So what I've been doing recently, because I just now got able to use Bigfoot. So what I do is I'm just sprinkling like a pinch of the Bigfoot into the seedling hole.
Really?
Hole,
So you're going in at seed stage with this stuff, not on your first pot.
Nope. And so I'm using that, and then when I make my little hole, put my seed in there, I put a little sprinkle of Bigfoot, and I put my seed in there, I cover it up, and then I drench the Dr. Root around it.
You're not messing around.
Nah, I want every seed to live. I want to see all the life come to life. That's the whole point, is to make sure we don't waste life.
I got you.
And so we can facilitate that process and really get it going when we can, you know, it's just about tackling every hurdle that the seed has to go through to start.
Knowing what is going on with the seed, knowing what it's going through, and taking each one of those steps and doing everything you can at each one of those things to make a better process.
Exactly. It's about maximizing and optimizing the
from
plants.
day one all the way through.
And if you do get mycorrhizae on your roots from day one, you're not going to have any root rot. You're not going to have any root diseases. You're going to have a nice, strong, healthy seedling. And that's the thing about the Dr. Root also, is we're providing some baby food right when you get the 4, 5, 6 tiers of leaves and it needs food. It's there. You're using the Dr. Root. It is giving you protection on your root system. It's giving you some baby food. And it's also starting the process of the soil being activated, because the humic acids and all the seaweed and all that other thing, it activates the process of the soil.
So you're better plant at the end exponentially to some extent, because you're starting off from day one maximizing what it's doing. Not just as far as production and harvest, but as far as pathogen resistance, pest resistance, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. A healthy plant is the best tool to prevent bugs.
That's a good place to stop.
Perfect.
Okay, so that was fun. That was sure nice of Tim to do all that for us, talking about that. I hope you found that informative, educational. That's the show for today. And more Cultured Biologix videos coming, and some other stuff too. We're going to get back to one show a day at least. I'm back in the swing of it. Sorry I was gone. I love you. I'm going to see you tomorrow. For more information about anything on today's show, go to our website, OCGFAM219. And if you buy anything while you're there, use the code OCGFAM219. It's going to save you 20%, and it's going to be a lot of fun. The OCG Fam Show, it's pretty good. It happens every day. It's the OCG Fam Show. See you tomorrow.